Before we make the soup, we have to go over how to make our own homemade stock, because homemade stock is the key to a delicious homemade soup. So today I'm using chicken wings.
Hold on 1 second. We have a fly that every once in a while has been flying through.
Oh goodness. Oh, I lost it. We'll get it eventually. No wonder there are flies in here. Dang. Oh! Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. He's quite active. He's like a track star. Welcome back to Dinner with Friends. It's soup season, so today we're making soup, one of my personal favorite soups, spicy spaghettiO soup. It is basically soup that tastes like spaghetti, because I wish that all foods taste more like spaghetti. It's my favorite food. Fun fact, spaghetti and meatballs, my favorite food. Soup is a really great thing to make in the around the holidays if you're entertaining, because you can make a huge batch of it, throw it in the freezer, keep it in the fridge, and then when people are hungry, they can reheat a bowl of soup. So that's what we're doing today. I'm only gonna make a 1 batch recipe of this, but I encourage you to double or triple it. The one note I will say is, if you are doubling or tripling this recipe and freezing it, I would not cook the pasta and put it in the soup that's going in the freezer, because it'll just like defrost weird. So add the pasta when you're reheating the soup, if that's what you're doing. This stock I'm gonna be using chicken bones for, but you could also follow this recipe and use turkey bones and make turkey stock for your Thanksgiving, or beef stock if you wanted to. It's just like a very basic stock recipe. Usually I'll use chicken backs, chicken necks, any spare bones that the butcher may have, because it's usually cheaper to buy chicken bones versus chicken wings, but they didn't have any. So this is what we're using. You could also use the carcass of a rotisserie chicken or a roast chicken. Any sort of bones that you have access to will work. The great part about using wings is that they have a ton of collagen in them from all of the connective tissue and the tendons. So using chicken wings in a stock will give you a really nice gelatinous stock, and you'll get the benefit of that natural collagen for your skin and for your hair. But what I'm gonna do is break down these chicken wings, because right now they're whole, because the more surface area that is exposed to the oven, the more browning will occur. And again, if you were making turkey stock, you could use the neck. Sometimes when you buy a whole turkey, you can look inside and they'll have the organs in the neck in there. That works great. Sometimes at the store during Thanksgiving time, they'll even have turkey wings that you can buy. Those make a really great stock. Turkey wings are literally this big. It's quite alarming. But what you do, same thing with a turkey, you kind of just snap the bones. So you have the drum and the flat. You snap the bones, cut through the joint. Now you have this guy. And then we're also gonna cut the wingtip. And you want a nice sharp knife for this. A heavy-handled chef's knife will work the best. Snap it. It's quite unsettling. Honestly, I used to get so grossed out by handling raw chicken, to the point where the night before I went to culinary school, I forced myself to spatchcock a chicken just to exposure therapy myself to raw chicken, because I was like, I can't show up to culinary school getting grossed out by the raw meat. That's so embarrassing. So yeah, if you're squeamish around raw chicken, the blood on the knife is really not gonna help. If you're squeamish around raw chicken, you kind of just have to get over it, unfortunately. Sorry. That's I mean, everyone does. I had to get over it too. So just gaslight yourself into thinking that it's normal. Now, all I have on these wings is just a little bit of olive oil so that they don't completely stick to the pan. And I'm gonna do the same on our veg. I've just broken down some carrots, celery, and onions. I think the general proportion, half onion, a quarter celery, a quarter carrot. So that's usually the general proportions that you wanna go with. Oh, and then I also have some crushed cloves of garlic. And we're gonna roast all of this in the oven at like 400 until brown and caramelized. So in the recipe that we made for the fundraiser, we hand rolled a bunch of tiny little meatballs with the sausage. And so each little meatball was identical in size, very uniform, very pretty, but that does take a really long time. So instead, we're just gonna take the sausage out of its casing and cook it up like it's ground beef or any ground meat. If you're looking for bonus points on presentation, go crazy, make little sausage meatballs, but I am warning you, it takes so long. Any raw protein, I always put on a plastic cutting board because it's so much easier to clean, and the bacteria can get caught in the wood fibers, and it's like not very sanitary. Okay, to take sausage out of its casing. Wait, did you know that the casing around sausage is the intestines? They like get the large intestine out and then they repurpose it for this. So that's what this like, I never knew that until culinary school where we made homemade sausage. And they're like, okay, so now we're gonna get the pig intestines for the casing. And I was like, okay, ew. And I'm just gonna tear it into like small pieces just so that it's easier to brown. And this is a hot Italian sausage. I like that because this whole recipe is intended to be as convenient as possible because we're hypothetically making it during the holidays when you're hosting and cooking 5 million other things. So we're using pre-seasoned sausage, we're using pre-made spaghetti sauce, like we're gonna chop the vegetables in a food processor. I don't like to be too precious about recipes like this that are meant to be casual and convenient. It's like, let's not go crazy. But if you don't like spicy, use sweet Italian sausage. I'm like over this step. That's like the worst is when I'm cooking. They always say, you know, you like to cook when even the mundane steps are entertaining for you. This was entertaining for like the first 2 and now I'm like over it. I want it to be done. Our sausage is hand crumbled. And now we're gonna sear it in the pot that we will be making the soup in. We wanna get a nice caramelization on this sausage to develop that Maillard reaction, science, and that will flavor the rest of our soup. Do you wanna come and say hi? We're making sausage, you'll love it. Come here. Say hey, everybody. Okay, we're gonna get this sausage browned in the pot. I'm gonna start it off with a little bit of olive oil. And then part of me wants to put half the sausage in first so that that gets really nice and caramelized, because if you put all of it in at once, it's gonna crowd the pan and steam and not caramelize. So while that's browning, I'm gonna get some water boiling for the pasta, salt. While the water is coming to a boil and the sausage is simmering, we're gonna prep the rest of our vegetables. So I've already finely chopped an onion, and for the rest of the vegetables, we want the flavor and we want the nutrients, but we don't want to know that there are vegetables in the soup, if that makes sense. Sometimes I'll get an immersion blender and blend the whole soup base so that it's like a puree, but I don't have my blender, my immersion blender here. A good alternative is to just blitz up the veg really fine in a food processor, which is what we're gonna do. But if all of these steps sound like too much for you, just hand chop the veg. It's really not a big deal. I just like have this thing where I really don't like a soup with floating vegetables in it. And I don't know why, it like weirds me out. I'm also like a 4-year-old and I'm like, oh, I wanna eat vegetables, but I don't wanna know that I'm eating vegetables. So that's sort of what we're going for. Honestly, I'm making a personal request to not include the chopping that I just did on this. You have to blur it out. My culinary school teachers are gonna rise from the dead. They're not dead. Just a rough chop on our veg, and now we're gonna blitz it super fine in our food processor. We're also gonna check on the sausage. Ooh, look at how nice and caramelized this is. That's what you want on like most of the pieces, is that golden brown. I'm gonna chop up the carrot first because it's quite hard. That's good. I might have let it go a little longer than I could have, should have, would have, but it's soup, like who cares? There was this Ina Garten Barefoot Contessa video that I remember watching, and she said these words that will always stick with me. When you're chopping up things for a salad, like maybe a pasta salad, or in this case a soup, and they're all different sizes, it looks like dog food, she said. And I was like, that's so true. And now every time I chop something and they're not even, I'm like, that does look like dog food. She was right. Use that information however you wish. We're gonna Take out some of the sausage and throw the rest in. And don't worry, like, you're like, oh my God, the cooked sausage next to the raw sausage. It's gonna go in the soup and cook more. So don't freak out. Oh, the bones. This is what we wanna see. You have this nice caramelization on the pan and all of the bones are nice and golden brown. Now that our bones and our veg are nice and roasted, we're going to throw them in a pot with some water. How easy is that? That's what Ina always says. Something I like to do is get some hot water and deglaze the pan, and that'll help get all that good stuff up. Because we don't want to surrender all that flavor to the dishwasher. We need that in our soup. All right, I'm gonna put more hot water on this and let it sit for a sec. Don't make the mistake that I usually make and fill the stock pot up in the sink, because then it'll be too heavy for you to carry over. I am adding a fancy ingredient, but this is totally optional. Dried porcini mushrooms. They add a really great depth to the stock, but don't feel like it's necessary at all. 3.5 quarts of water. You don't want to add too much water because then it's not going to be concentrated. I'm going to throw in some dried mushrooms, bay leaf, boop. Oh, and peppercorns. If you don't feel like making homemade stock, but you still want a delicious soup, I recommend buying stock from your butcher or frozen bone broth from the grocery store that's like expensive. It's worth it. Like, you might feel like that's an expense that makes no sense, but trust me, it makes such a difference. This is gonna simmer for like 3 hours. Lucky enough for us, I've already made some chicken stock. We have ditalini and tubetti. They're both tiny tubes. I don't have the circle shapes that look actually like spaghettiOs, but these are close enough. Same vibe. We need to all weigh in. What's everyone's favorite? I think I'm making the executive decision to go with ditalini instead of tubetti, because we're gonna return to Ina's advice in that the larger shapes are gonna be a more similar size to the sausage. I just had a stroke. Looking at the sausage pieces, let me get a good one. Like when the noodle cooks, it'll be a more similar size to than these tiny noodles. We don't want soup that looks like dog food, so I've decided this is done. Okay, we're gonna add the onions first and scrape up all of those brown bits. As the onions release their moisture, the moisture will release the brown bits from the bottom of the pan. And this is just cooking in the fat left over from the sausage. If you're using like a chicken sausage situation and there's not a ton of fat in the pan, I would add some more olive oil, and we're gonna add the rest of our veg. Now we wanna cook out a lot of this moisture from our veg, get a nice deep caramelized flavor. You're gonna see the steam coming off the pot. Once that kind of subsides, that means the moisture is gone. If you can't get your hands on ditalini or tubetti, orzo works really well. Any tiny noodle that'll like fit on your spoon. Oh shoot, I forgot to put the Calabrian chilies and the roasted red peppers in the Roboku. So we're gonna have to chop them by hand. Plastic cutting board so it doesn't stain my wood cutting board. Calabrian chilies, again, it's spicy spaghettios, so make it as spicy as you want. I have the unfortunate reality of having no access to chopped Calabrian chilies because Cinderella out here just doesn't believe in that, I guess. And if you don't have Calabrian chilies, red pepper flakes, anything spicy. Gochugaru, Korean pepper flakes. But the thing about Calabrian chilies that I love is not only do they add spice and heat, they also add like a fruitiness, like a vegetal sort of vibe, and we love that. Do I want to do roasted red bell pepper? We have a regular bell pepper in here already. I've decided no. If you feel passionately about adding roasted red bell pepper, you totally could. It's just like, I don't feel like doing that right now. I'm gonna add a smidgen of tomato paste, and while that's doing its thing, I'm gonna show you my chicken stock. The sign of a really great chicken stock is the jiggle. You see how it's like a little bit more viscous and not just like watery. You wanna see the jiggle, that's the collagen that we broke down and is now giving it sort of like a gelatin vibe. You'll see on the top there's some chicken fat. I know a lot of people skim off the chicken fat because then it adds more fat to the recipe, and if you're not accounting for that fat in your recipe, you might have an overly fatty recipe. However, I love the flavor of the chicken fat. Do what you want. I'm gonna leave it because it's delicious. Chicken fat is probably the best animal fat to exist. So we're gonna add some chicken stock. See that jiggle? 3 quarts. While that's coming to a boil, I'm gonna tidy. Oh, one thing. I'm gonna throw in this Parmesan rind. Totally optional, but it adds such an amazing flavor to the soup. That was reckless of me and I should not have done that. Now's the time where I ditch the utensils that have touched raw meat. I'm just saying that out loud so the internet doesn't like come after me. Hi!
You look so cute.
Oh, thanks. We have a visitor, we have a friend. Seth and Alex are both also private chefs out here in the Hamptons, and that's how we became friends. We don't want to add the noodles until the soup is done because we don't want the noodles to keep cooking. Wow, I really do have a live studio audience now. Shocking to no one, I forgot another ingredient, garlic. We were supposed to add it with the vegetables. It's fine. I'm just gonna put it in now, but I just felt the need to admit my wrongdoings. And then I'm gonna throw the sausage back in and let that simmer for a sec. Let everyone get all incorporated and happy. We don't want all of the sausage drippings fat in there, because again, then it would be like a really greasy soup. Oh, I forgot there's a Parmesan rind in here. I have to find that. We do need to taste and salt accordingly. Ooh, that's good. In a second, we'll add the noodles, but I'm gonna get a bowl ready for us to plate already. Oh my God, I almost forgot. Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. We didn't even add the tomato sauce yet. You guys, I'm not used to all of these people. I'm getting distracted. I'm using Rayos because I like Rayos, but use whatever tomato sauce you want. Wow. Boom. Magic. This is my favorite tomato sauce. That is why I'm using it, again, because I want the soup to taste like spaghetti. This is the kind of sauce I use on my spaghetti if I'm not using homemade sauce. This is a 32-ounce jar. I might add half. It's a family-sized jar. We already have the tomato paste in there. That'll give a tomato flavor, but this is just like really gonna seal the deal. I've developed this recipe to be made in a restaurant kitchen where the proportions were like insane. They were making like 40 servings at a time. So that's why my measurements are a little bit lenient, because I'm like, haven't made it in this size in a while. Okay, let's do another taste. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna add more. I think I'm gonna add the whole jar. Now we can add the noodles. Wow, I can't believe I forgot 2 of the most important ingredients, garlic and tomato sauce. Time to add our noodles and then our soup will be done. How exciting. Ba, 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 ba. Ooh, that's good. I'm gonna add some fresh basil. What do we say? That's like a cup of basil. And we're done. All right, let's plate it up. The Parmesan rind is still in there. I'm gonna let it hang out in there until I'm packing the soup up, just because the longer it sits in there, the more the flavor of the parm will infuse into the broth. Just wait, I'm gonna wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh my God, I forgot this ingredient. Finish it with some parm. This is my spicy spaghettiO soup. I hope you make it, I hope you try it, I hope you love it. Sorry I messed up so many times, but like, I mean, it's gonna happen again. Really good. Perfectly spicy. Almost adding the raw garlic at the end is making it like spicier in a garlic way. But yeah, this is fabulous. 5 stars. Feels like you're eating a bowl of pasta, but you have the comforting slurp of the soup, which is the best of both worlds. Okay, who wants a bowl? Oh my gosh. Yes.